Welcome to the Love of the Star podcast. I am Bobby Belt, Dallas Cowboys insider for 105.3 The Fan in Dallas. That is your radio flagship home of the Dallas Cowboys. Joined as always by former Super Bowl winning NFL scout Brian Broaddus. He is now the co-host of the G-Bag Nation, 2 to 7 p.m. Central, Monday through Friday on 105.3 The Fan. He is also the pre- and post-game co-host on the Dallas Cowboys radio network. And he is the co-host of the Draft Show, where he will be bringing you 3 days of motivated, detailed, wonderful coverage for DallasCowboys.com and simulcast on 105.3 The Fan. Brian Broaddus, how are you?
Doing great, Bobby. And yes, that is Bobby Belt, the voice you hear there. He is of Sean and RJ and Bobby, 5:30 to 10, Monday through Friday on 105.3 The Fan. He is also the Cowboy insider for 105.3 The Fan. He is also the co-host of the Draft Show and will be with us those 3 days that he mentioned. And he also is soon to win an award for this podcast, The Love of the Star. So, Robert, great to be with you. Happy Draft Eve, sir.
Boy, it's finally here. And while it's a very exciting time, I don't know about you, Brian. You're probably a little bit different than I am. I think you feel like you don't want it to end. Like this is it, but you kind of don't want it to end. I'm different in that I'm so excited for it, but I'm also very excited about the idea of Sunday because this has been a marathon. It has been an absolute marathon, and I'm ready to find out which players are here with the Cowboys and where they're going to go moving forward, how this team's going to look next year, and there are going to be some pretty big pieces here. But I bet you wish you could extend this thing out over the course of 2 months and just do the draft over 2 months and be able to do this for the rest of your life.
I've always felt like this, Bobby, that the NFL would be a great job if you didn't actually have to play games. Like all you get to do is like you can evaluate and draft and put boards together and stuff like that. So yeah, this has always been my favorite time of the year. I started back on this. Now the scouts have started on this for these teams all the way back to August, when the season training camp, out at camp, and then you start to do your get your school calls ready. So this has been a long journey for the scouts. But for myself and others who work on this draft, my day of starting was December 1st, able to get through 210 players. Super, super excited to be working with 105.3 The Fan and then DallasCowboys.com on this draft because, we've been doing it now. The Draft Show has been 11, 12 years now. Some great, personalities have been a part of it. Some of the best draft coverage, around when you look at the 3 days, the wall-to-wall stuff that we're able to do. So super excited. Yeah, I'm with you, Bobby. There's to a point in time though where you do need to say, let's see which direction this thing is going to go, and then it kind of it's really satisfying in that way when it's all said and done on that Saturday afternoon when Mr. Irrelevant is selected.
Well, before we go into an extended mailbag to finish up our final show before the first round of the NFL draft, because I'll be honest, Brian and I both were looking at it and we're like, we don't know which angle to cut at this. We've dissected it from every angle we know how. So now we're just going to turn it over to you guys, let you guys tell us what remaining questions you have left, and we'll knock those out. But for this first segment, Daniel Jeremiah over at NFL Network just dropped his final mock draft right as we were getting ready to record here. And so I thought it'd be interesting to kind of go down the list, see what he's got here in the first round, because Daniel's very plugged in. His last mock is usually pretty accurate, relative to the rest of the NFL draft community. I mean, nobody's super accurate because unpredictable things happen, but he's always got a really good sense on a few things. So I'm going to run down this list with you here, Brian, and we're going to take a look at who Daniel Jeremiah is projecting at a couple of different spots, including for the Dallas Cowboys. But the number 1 overall pick is Bryce Young, quarterback, Alabama, to the Carolina Panthers. And he's got an interesting projection right out of the gate, Brian. He has C.J. Stroud going number 2 to the Houston Texans. And then he has the Texans picking at 3. He has the Cardinals bailing out of that pick, going back to 12, and the Texans coming back up to get Will Anderson. How good do you think the Texans should feel if they come out of this draft and they get Will Anderson and C.J. Stroud?
tell you, they should feel really good about their situation there. And then just if folks don't know Daniel Jeremiah, by the way, if you're new and you don't, you mentioned the NFL. He was a scout for several teams, a 7-year veteran scout. So he's lived this. He's a lot like me in the way that he has a lot of connections. He's a lot younger than me. A lot of his guys are still in the league. A lot of my guys have become general managers and stuff like that. And so they, the gang of 7, very helpful to me when we're doing these things. He's very well connected, as you mentioned. So yeah, there's, the thing that is interesting about Stroud being second overall pick is that Nick Caserio, the general manager in Houston, must have got his way. The coaches there, when D'Amico Ryans, who's the head coach, a lot of the coaches he brought on the offensive side of the ball were from the San Francisco 49ers. The 49ers are a big S2 team, that testing, testing team. And so they really do believe in that. And if if the scores for Stroud were not, ideal, the scores that were leaked or whatever, if those were the actual scores or not, maybe it was something that was false. Maybe we'll find out. I know Stroud has come out and said, hey, listen, I don't have to apologize for anything. I'm all about playing football and all that. So, if that's the case, Nick Caserio, maybe he wasn't a big S2 guy. Maybe he convinced his coaches, hey, we've got to have a quarterback. Stroud's the best option here. Even though that S2 scores weren't as high from what we've seen and, for other quarterbacks. So this would be a very interesting development if that's the case. I know John McClain, the retired writer from the Houston paper, who's long time connected with all the way back to the Oilers, now the Texans and all that. He's got Will Levis going second overall. So you got 2 quarterbacks, now. But again, Daniel Jeremiah, very connected guy.
Well, and Lance Zierlein, another guy in Houston, has had Tyree Wilson from Texas Tech tied to them. So there's a lot of confusion about what's going to happen at the top. But that'd be incredible if the Texans moved up, had the number 2 and the number 3 pick. Number 4, the Indianapolis Colts. Daniel Jeremiah has Will Levis.
There you go.
At Kentucky. The Seahawks at 5. He has Jalen Carter from Georgia. And he says half of the league sources I talked to say Carter will be the pick for the Seahawks. The other half has told me there is 0 chance he'll go to the Seahawks at 5. And so he doesn't know who to believe. And so he's going to say Seattle.
I think he's covering his bases there.
Yeah.
I think he's just saying, John Snyder, John did a good job drafting, last couple of years. My old intern from the Packers has done a really nice job up there, and he's been there a long time, and they kind of got things figured out. They move on from Russell Wilson. They get this pick from the Broncos. It ends up being a top 5 pick. You can't ask for anything better to add a player like a Jalen Carter. I know we had in the draft show mock draft today, Carter somehow with the warts and all that slid all the way down to us at 26. And, we were able to have that opportunity to select him. But I will say that, he is hedging his bets a little bit here, because I think 50% of the league kind of believes that, there's some issues with Jalen Carter. There are some issues that you're going to have to deal with, maturity issues. Is he always telling the truth, or things, what's going on with this particular player? The tape is outstanding. It's the other things that you have to get through in order to see the player get to the field that it could be a little bit of an issue.
Number 6, the Lions take cornerback Devin Witherspoon first off the board before Porter or Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Number 7, the Raiders take Christian Gonzalez, the corner from Oregon. Number 8, the Atlanta Falcons take Bijan Robinson from Texas. There's starting to be some smoke around Atlanta and Bijan Robinson, and I do know they like him.
Yeah, Bijan Robinson.
That's an interesting one.
No, Bijan Robinson, and then you're talking about the Georgia defensive end. There are guys that I think are getting a lot. Nolan Smith are getting a lot of play there at that Atlanta spot at 8.
Number 9, the Bears take Tyree Wilson from Tech. Daniel Jeremiah notes Wilson could easily go second overall to the Texans. So that is still in play, apparently. Number 10, the Eagles take Nolan Smith, edge rusher, Georgia.
Yeah, I think that's going to happen. That's Howie's MO. He's going to try and build through the lines, whether it's defensive line, offensive line. I thought there was a possibility that the Bijan Robinson that was getting a little bit of traction. I think Philadelphia, the fans, the media, they're kind of lining up trying to get Bijan Robinson there. But if in fact that he goes to Atlanta, there's some talk that maybe Howie was trying to get to Detroit's spot to get ahead of Atlanta to maybe make a pick there with, if in fact that he was interested in, if Nolan Smith was going to maybe go to Atlanta.
Number 11, the Titans take the first receiver off the board. Any guesses?
I'm going to say the Titans probably went with Jordan Addison.
Daniel Jeremiah has Zay Flowers going number 11.
Here we go.
Boston College.
There you go.
Zay Flowers did get an invite to the draft, one of 17 to get it. That's usually an indication from the league. I think you're going in the first round.
Zay Flowers, good for
12,
him.
the Cardinals, who traded back with the Texans, take Paris Johnson, tackle from Ohio State. There's been some smoke around that connection. Number 13, the new owner of the number 13 pick, the Green Bay Packers, select Dalton Kincaid, tight end, Utah.
Okay, now let me
thoughts on that pick?
Yeah, I'll give you some thoughts on that, because I kind of feel like that Green Bay's in a situation where, let me pull up my notes if I can real quick. I apologize. I'm not as prepared as I need to be.
You're good.
I should have had my notes rocking and ready to go. Okay, with the Packers, I think with the Packers, you're kind of in a situation looking at edges, looking at offensive tackles, tight ends, and wide receivers. I was getting a really, really strong vibe that Broderick Jones, tackle, Georgia, keep that one in mind at 13, because they're thinking about with David Bakhtiari moving on for him after this season. They feel like they could play Broderick Jones at guard and then shift him out to offensive tackle. So there's some questions. I believe the other tackle there is on a tender number as well. So they're maybe thinking about doing this offensive line thing now instead of down the road.
Next pick, New England Patriots select Lucas Van Ness, edge from Iowa. That would be a fake pen throw for you. You're not a big fan of Lucas Van Ness.
You know what? I'll admit it. I will admit it. If, I like the player. Don't get me wrong. I like the player. I just don't see a top 10 player. And I'm sorry. I just don't. And I think there was some teams I was talking to. One of the guys said, "Hey man, you're not wrong about him, but there's plenty of other really good scouts that have him as a top 10, top 13 player." And if that's the case, I'll always admit that I messed him up, but I don't hate the player. I don't see a top 10 player. That's it.
Jets at 15 select Peter Skoronski from Northwestern. That would be a little bit of a slide there.
Gosh, you get Rodgers and Peter Skoronski in one draft. How about that? Man,
yeah, and we know pressure up the middle, keeping Rodgers in that well. Yeah. So get you Peter Skoronski, tighten things up there. Number 16, the Commanders take Emmanuel Forbes, corner from Mississippi State. Smoke around that connection lately. 17, the Steelers, Broderick Jones, offensive tackle, Georgia, who you just talked about potentially with Green Bay.
Green Bay, yeah.
Number 18, the Lions select Kalijah Cansey, defensive tackle from Pittsburgh. Number 19, the Buccaneers take wide receiver Jackson Smith and Jigba from Ohio State. Number 20, the Seahawks take Anthony Richardson, quarterback, Florida. It's a little bit of a slide, isn't it? That'd be surprising if Richardson got all the way down to 20.
It's a perfect pick for them. I know that people have kind of talked about that. Where would Richardson go there? Maybe they thought about he would go to the Raiders. I think if Al Davis was still alive and running the draft for the Raiders, that Richardson wouldn't get past 7. That's an Al Davis kind of looking guy right there. A little bit mystery about the player, good athlete, tough, big, kind of fits the profile. So, but for him to get down the board to the Seahawks, I think John Snyder would be super happy about that. 2
teams that there are, I would feel pretty good about DJ's projections on these guys. Number 21, the Los Angeles Chargers select Michael Mayer, Notre Dame tight end.
Michael Mayer goes to, okay. And DJ is the color commentator, right? Him and Matt him and Matt Money Smith are the two.
Yes.
So yeah. Okay. So Mayor's off the board now. Was Kincaid off the
Mayor's
board?
off the board. Kincaid went to the Packers at 13.
Okay.
Next team that DJ again, some connections to. Pick 22, the Ravens take Deonte Banks, corner, Maryland.
Good pick. Really good pick. There's some questions about him, though, taking from the board to the field. But, man, you watch him play. The kid is a nice player.
You surprised that he would go ahead of Joey Porter Jr.?
I'm kind of hoping that Joey Porter Jr. gets down to the Cowboys. I really do.
Let's see. Number 23, the Vikings select Jordan Addison, receiver, USC. I know Dane Brugler's compared his footwork, his route running, similar to Stephon Diggs, a guy that the Vikings clearly liked in the past. So that one wouldn't be a bad connection. Number 24, the Jacksonville Jaguars select Joey Porter Jr., cornerback from Penn State.
Okay, let me read. You know me, I've got some connections in Jacksonville. I've got some connections in Jacksonville. I didn't want to sit there and tell you. I'm not going to sit there. I couldn't get him to tell me the players. But here's Jacksonville's needs. Corner makes a lot of sense. Outside linebacker, tackle, guard, tight end, inside pass rusher. So corner, outside linebacker, tackle, guard. So they're looking. So if Joey Porter was there, that makes a lot of sense for the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Number 25, New York Giants select Brian Branch, defensive back, Alabama.
Okay, I was on the Giants podcast one day, and they were talking about wide receivers, and they were talking about cornerbacks. Cornerbacks is what they were talking about. So Branch, and that's a team that has a history of drafting receivers high. So sure, let's go for it.
Well, Branch would be defensive back, not a receiver.
No. I'm sorry. I meant safeties. I meant they have a history of drafting safeties. I'm sorry. Yes.
So Branch, corner, safety, depending on how you view him, just in general, versatile piece. So it comes to the Cowboys at pick 26. Again, I think DJ has some decent connections here in Dallas. And he is projecting Oregon State tight end Luke Musgrave with Darnell Wright from Tennessee on the board.
I'll tell you what, I would take Darnell Wright all day, but you have to.
I would be surprised. No. I would be surprised if they picked Musgrave over Wright.
I would be shocked. I would be shocked concerning that. But you know what? I had a guy tell me yesterday, or actually today, I was driving around, and I'm not going to name the guy. Guy told me today, he goes, I am going to tell you who the Dallas Cowboys are going to take, but I'm going to tell you who I think they're going to take at 6:30 the day of the draft. So when the draft starts, he's going to make me wait till 6:30, and then he's going to send me the text who I think the Cowboys are going to draft. So,
is it somebody who
I respect this guy. I respect this guy.
All right. That'll be good. Then you'll need to tune into DallasCowboys.com and 105.3 Fan simulcast so that you can start hearing names that Brian's mysteriously dropping at 6:30 all of a sudden. But Luke Musgrave, that would be a surprise. I would love it. I've told you would. I've told you for a while. I think they do like Musgrave. I don't know that they would. I really don't know that they'd take him over Darnell Wright, but I wouldn't hate the pick. I do like Luke Musgrave a lot.
I tell you what, if they did take that, okay, Wright would be my 19th player, and I think I had Musgrave at 31. So
yes.
So I'm kind of right there. Let me make sure I don't want to lie to everybody. I'm trying not to lie here. Let me see what we got here. Can't get my thing to do what I want to do. I mean, why is that? Why do when I need technology to work, technology doesn't work for me? All right, here we go. Yeah, let me see. Yeah, Luke Musgrave. Okay, here we go. Broadus 31, Brugler 29. Dan, this is surprising. Daniel Jeremiah 38. Do you think
so? Does he know something?
He might know something. Because you look at, okay, I took my 210 and I ranked them. I put my 210 in order. And then I went ahead and put Dane Brugler's list next to mine. I took 300, his 300, and I filled it in. And I took Daniel Jeremiah's 150 and I filled it in. 31, 29, 38. That doesn't seem like a guy that's just trying to kind of follow his board.
Lance Zierlein, a guy that I think is really good too. Lance Zierlein had Musgrave as the number 1 tight end and number 13 overall. I've got Musgrave at 15. I like Musgrave a lot. I would be thrilled with it, but I'd be stunned if they went that direction. But it feels like maybe.
How happy when you saw that? How happy were you?
Something.
How happy were you? You're like giddy right now. You're like
I'd love it. I'd love it. I'd love to be thrilled with it.
The health, everything going to be good? You sure with the health? He's a really good player. He is, but man, and like I say, you're picking at 26. I got him at 31. I shouldn't have a problem with it. I only have a problem with it. And maybe this is what this guy's going to tell me tomorrow, that they're going to take Luke Musgrave. Maybe that's what's going to happen. But I'm telling you, if Wright was on the board and it was Wright and Musgrave, and as much as they can use a big time left guard potentially, man, that would be hard for me. I'd like, I'm going to be out about the pick, but man, that would be hard for me. Really
Look, if you were going to ask me like who's most likely to be or like who has the best chance, you
would even take.
I love Musgrave. I don't know.
You don't have Wright. You don't have Wright over Musgrave is what you're telling me right now.
Yeah, I have Musgrave higher.
Okay. Then it makes sense. It makes absolute sense. It makes absolute sense what you're talking about. I
do have Kincaid. I do have Kincaid 1 above. Kincaid's 14, Musgrave's 15.
Oh,
but Kincaid's not there in this scenario.
You coward. You couldn't separate the two?
There.
You couldn't separate the two?
No, they're right next to each other. I'd be fine.
What are we doing over there? How about a little separation between those two guys?
Why can't I have two guys at the same position back to back? I put one above the other. It's just barely.
Coward.
No. All right, now real quick before we finish up the segment, just for the interest, I'll run through the remaining picks in the first round.
Yeah, please do.
Johnson, 27 to the Bills.
Who was that? Quentin Johnson?
Quentin Johnson, 27 to the Bills, receiver from TCU. 28 to the Bengals. Keanu Benton, defensive tackle, Wisconsin.
My guy. 50 on my board. Talked about him today on the draft show. Had a good question about him and a linebacker, right? That was a good question. Whoever.
Yeah, it was with Dan Henley.
Dan Henley or
Dan Bentley or Benton.
Yeah, or the Texas Coburn, right? Coburn.
Yeah, because it was Henley and a defensive tackle in the 4th, or Benton and whatever. I don't remember which linebacker.
Williams from Tulane.
Yeah. And so basically, it just came down to, did you like Benton or Henley more?
I love Henley.
Murphy from Clemson goes 29 to the Saints. Jahmyr Gibbs, 30 to the Eagles. I know you would not love Jahmyr Gibbs with the Eagles. That would be tough. And then pick 31, Darnell Wright to the Kansas City Chiefs.
That's my guy Andy Reid just keeps knocking it out of the park. That's why he picks last in every draft, because he figures it out. I tell you what, I am a fan of Musgrave, but if Andy took him at 31, you know what I would say, Bobby? I'd go, that's why they're the Super Bowl champs. That's why they're beating everybody. That's why, I'd be yelling at pointing, I'd be do my Carl Loftus voice and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm Carl Loftus. That's what you'd be doing. Yeah. You're listening to Love of the Star.
I'm right.
The Love of the Stars, an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian. So we're going to finish up here with just an extended mailbag of sorts. Get some final questions in here from our Love of the Star listeners. First question here from Spieth Island. Who is this year's potential version of the CeeDee Lamb pick? So a guy I would guess who really has no business getting to you at 26, but by some miracle does. Bijan?
Yeah, I think that Bijan Robinson would be the one that to me, it screams that you walk that minefield and you made it too. I tell you what, I would be, just me personally, I would be surprised. I would be surprised if Miles Murphy from Clemson, even though he went and Daniel Jeremiah, I get him as my 14th best player, you know? And maybe at the edge, I kind of feel like, man, this guy, he is perfect for that edge player. He's always around the ball and stuff. If my 14th best player gets to me at 26, that's a surprise. If my third best player gets to me at 26, that's a huge surprise. So I kind of feel like those would be the two guys that I would look at and say, wow, man, the draft gods were smiling on me today.
Next question here from Trey Davis. A realistic player the Cowboys would move up for in the draft. I kind of wonder, given DJ's mock, which we just went over,
yeah,
if Skoronski got to the middle of the first round, I at least would be interested. I don't know that they would, but I would. That would be a guy that I'd be willing to call on. And trade up, a guy they'd be more likely to trade up for might be in the second round. Like if they're in the second, worried about losing somebody who could get to him. I don't know so much about the first. I still think it's more likely they go back in the first than up.
Yeah, I think so too, Bobby. And we said this on the draft show today, and I felt like the only way that Dallas would go up if somebody was trying to bail and just were selling their pick. And they were selling their pick, and it wasn't going to be an overpay situation. Like much like the Cowboys during the draft with Travis Frederick. They got caught at 18. They weren't sure which way they wanted to go. They could have got a second round pick in San Francisco off their own chart. They could have picked a second round pickup. They took a third. So to me, it would have to be a team ahead of me is just trying to bail and they want to go to a spot. They have an idea of a spot and they're willing to sell their pick for a lot less value. That's the only way I see the Cowboys going up.
Question here from Chris Tyler. Hypothetically, if one of the top four quarterbacks is still on the board, let's say Anthony Richardson, DJ's right, slides a little bit and gets over there to 26. What would be the compensation you'd want to trade back? So somebody wants to come up and get Richardson. Would you hold somebody hostage more than you would if it was for a non-quarterback?
So what you're thinking about, where Seattle doesn't have Denver's pick in the second, right? Let's look here. Yeah, look at a team. Give me a team that didn't pick a quarterback. See, Houston picked their quarterback, right? So they would be out. Seattle picked their quarterback in the Daniel Jeremiah draft, so
this would be if Richardson slid past.
Okay, Richardson's sliding.
Seattle has two picks, so if they didn't take one, let's look down the list here, Brian. New Orleans at 40.
Okay, New Orleans at 40. So now I mean,
or they're at 29. They'd have to jump up a little. What would you hold them hostage for that? Hey, if you want to come up from 29 because this is a quarterback, you have to give us 40. That's steep for 3 spots, but you want a quarterback.
What other pick? I mean, do you have the chart in front of you? What the money is going to, not the money, but what the
point difference is?
What the point difference is? I could pull that up.
From 29 to 26.
Yeah,
it is 60 points. So it's a steep overpay.
It's a steep
overpay. But it's saying if you're holding them hostage and saying we will give this to somebody else to come get the quarterback.
Okay, if you go to 40, what is it?
How many points is 40 worth?
Yeah, because you're worth 700. Am I right
that?
about
Yeah, 40's 500. 40's 500.
40's 500. So it's a 200-point swing, right?
Yep.
So I need to come up with 200 points somehow. You know, that's what I think you have to think about, because I'm not just going to dive just to dive. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, what about this? What about this, Brian? Washington's picking at 47. Did not take a quarterback.
Yeah.
If you moved back to 47, could you say, "Give me your first next year"?
Ooh. Yeah, I mean, if you know when they're coming for a quarterback, you could sure hold them up for that. Sure. Absolutely, you could. you know?
So, and this is just hypothetical. I don't think any of the four
Oh,
quarterbacks.
no.
In fact, I think 5 quarterbacks are gone before the Cowboys pick. But
Yeah.
that's just me.
But okay, let me just do this for you then, Bobby. We're picking at 40, or where did you say we're picking at? Where are we picking at with we're picking at Saints with 40, right? I'm gonna
Well, the
name
Saints have 29 and 40.
Okay, but we're going back. We're not going. They want us to go to 40, right? They want us to go to 40. Okay,
because they want the quarterback in their first round.
Okay, let's think about the names that potentially could be on that board. And I'm just looking at my stack is all I'm looking at, right? That's the only thing. If my stack, say your stack is accurate, say it's like, okay, what are the possible players there at 40? So you got, if your board is
Avila, Avila's the first name that comes to mind for me.
Here we go. Potentially guys like Mozzie Smith at 39, right? Okay. I'll go up one higher. Potentially Will McDonald at 38. Potentially Mozzie Smith at 39. Keely Ringo on my board at 40. Okay, Van Ness, he's already gone. Josh Downs, 42. DJ Turner, Michigan, corner, 43. Joe Tipman, center, Wisconsin, 44. Jack Campbell, linebacker, 45.
Brian, how many Wisconsin centers can this organization draft? We're looking here. Throw Tittman off.
I know. But like Tyler Scott at 46, maybe the tight end Tucker Kraft at 49, Cody Mack. How do you say the name?
Mack. I don't know what it is.
Cody Mock or Mack. I always mess it up. I'm sorry if I do that. But he's a guy on my board at 48. So maybe, that's the kind of player, if on your board, you have to determine what players could be there at 40 in order to make that fall. So I just gave you the guys on my board, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at for that. So I don't know. Is it worth trading back for the players I just named? I know Mozzie Smith was a guy that people were talking about. Well, Will McDonald, people are talking about him at 26. Is he there at 30?
Interesting to know, in Jeremiah's mock, McDonald did not go in the first round.
Yeah, exactly. I think there's some things with McDonald that we need to know about. I think there's some things there. I think there's some whispers about him as a player, but I'm also hearing whispers. I don't think the Cowboys are bothered by anything that you hear about McDonald.
What have they ever been bothered by, Brian? When have they ever been bothered by anybody?
I don't know. I was just, there's some whispers that teams I was talking to last night, because I mentioned McDonald because I mentioned Dan Quinn, and they're like, well, you need to check this, and you need to check that, and you need to check this, but kind of getting word that the Cowboys aren't bothered by the things you need to check. So, full steam ahead on Will McDonald.
All right, next question here from John. What non-first round player are you certain will be a Cowboy come Saturday night? I'm not certain of any of them, but the one maybe I have the best feeling on, Brian, I don't know about you. If you're going to tell me, hey, who's got the best chance to be a Cowboy at any round, at any point during the draft, I would say I really have felt for a long time the connection between Kendre Miller and the Cowboys, the running back from TCU.
Yeah, you have been on that one for a while. I can't disagree with you on that. It feels like too good of a fit. The fact that he's in the backyard, I'm sure the need checked out fine for them. The Jerry and Steven, they talk highly about all these programs, but they TCU specifically and what they were able to do. Kendre Miller seems like a very much a Dallas Cowboy guy with all the work that they've done on him.
You are listening to the Love of the Star podcast. The Love of the Star is an Odyssey podcast. You can find it on the Odyssey app or wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Brian, continuing on with our listener mailbag here, our extended listener mailbag. Question from Lonnie. What is the difference in Kalijah Cansey and Adetomiwa Adebari's game at defensive tackle, and which would you prefer on the team? Adebari is the defensive had played a lot of defensive end at Northwestern, but he's going to be a defensive tackle.
He's projected. Yeah.
And then Kalijah Cansey, the undersized defensive tackle from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I would much rather have Cansey is what I would rather have. And I think that, to me, and we all know this, he's 6'1", he's 281. He's got some of those traits that you would see, the quickness, the ability to make plays. I mean, he does an outstanding job of working up the field. He wins with that quickness in order to get to the ball. He could be so disruptive in the way that he plays, relentless effort, desire. When he just attacks the gap, he gets the job done. He works the edges well of these linemen. You could see him. He's not going to let him get their hands on him. He'll chase the ball. He makes his share of plays where he's just always on the move, the lateral quickness, the agility, the redirection. When he's too far up the field, he could come back. He could push the pocket with power, but his best pass rush moves comes with the quickness off the ball. So I just really, really like him a lot when it comes to that. When you start to talk about, the Northwestern kid, it to me, it's there's a lot of that where, okay, I'm watching him play edge, and then they move him inside, and I'm thinking, okay, man, he can't play the edge as well. He's got to play inside. He's got to be able to.
It's a lot of traits with Adebari. It is a lot of traits.
A lot of traits with the player. And I'll tell you this, though. I mean, he is one of those guys. He's just so relentless in the way that he plays. And, you could watch him. I mean, he's a little bit bigger the size that you would probably like as that defensive tackle. But I mean, he is one of those guys, though, too, that could be nonstop in the way that he plays. So I do like Cansey just a little bit more. Cansey, to me, is a solid second round of a type of a player, where Adebari, where I feel like that he is more like, there's a big drop. Like, I go Cansey at 33 on my board, and then Northwestern at 67. So, same area and the same type of player. Just, I think Cansey's just a little bit more of a disruptive player. I trust him a little bit more.
Do you think there's a chance the Cowboys would like Adebari more? I think he fits a profile more that they might like.
I don't see that being a problem.
I'm not saying they would have him higher, but I'm just saying I think that if you look at their profiles, Adebari looks a lot more like the type of athlete they've wanted on the defensive line.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you at all. I know with me, to me, there's explosive bursts with the guy. I said the same thing. Both these guys, they could be disruptive. He's got some power in that. I mean, he's 6'2", he's 282. I mean, he's a inch taller and a pound heavier, the Northwestern kid. So, I mean, I kind of feel like that, to me, that
long arms and freak athlete, though.
Yeah, but there's some things where you watch Adebari where he plays and he looks a little stiff. I mean, you feel like, he's a little stiff, but when he gets in position, he's going to finish. Both guys finish, but it's amazing how well he tested, in this thing. So at the combine. So I think the testing got him in a position to be drafted. I think the tape is good, but I don't know if it's as good as Cansey's tape. That's kind of where I'm at there.
Next question from Christian Conti. If Dalton Kincaid from Utah and Darnell Wright from Tennessee are both there at 26, who would you pick and who do you think they would pick?
I think that I would take Wright, and I think that they might take Kincaid. That's kind of where I think. Do you agree with that?
I think they would take Kincaid. I would take Kincaid over Wright.
I would take Wright.
I think they'd take Kincaid. I can't say that with certainty, though, because, I mean, they have clearly shown that when they do like an offensive lineman, if they like Darnell Wright enough, if they like him, they've shown that they're willing to get, make those sorts of picks on offensive linemen. They'll spend high capital on that. But
I do about it is they've shown with late offensive linemen has been right in their wheelhouse. They've go back, like we say, we talk about the Travis Fredericks of the world. Go back. They've found ways to make those first round linemen work and work to their advantage.
Absolutely, and that's why if they grade right well enough, I mean, really, if you look at the top 3-4 rounds, really. Yeah, Josh Ball hasn't been great, and yeah, they missed on Chaz Green, but otherwise they've hit pretty consistently when they take guys, even if it took a little while, like Connor McGovern.
Yep.
Right. Next question here from Garrett. Can we get a bold draft weekend prediction from each of y'all? Brian, do you have a bold draft weekend prediction?
Wow. I haven't given that much of a thought. I mean, a bold, if you got one going, and maybe it'll jar me to say something here, but
man, I don't know that there's any. I feel like we've got it all kind of mapped out for them. If I was going to say
a bold
there's been a lot of chatter about the Cowboys could take a quarterback spot. I think maybe it's bold. I don't know. I don't think the Cowboys touch quarterback till like maybe the 5th, more like the 6th, 7th.
So you're thinking Clayton Tune. I know for a fact that Aiden O'Connell is a guy that Mike McCarthy really likes.
Yeah.
Now does Will McClay and Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones allow that to be? But I was talking with Dane Brugler about the Cowboy mock draft. He says, "Hey, I want to give him a quarterback." I said, "Where do you got Aiden O'Connell?" And he goes, "I've already got him gone." And that was in the 3rd round. I don't know if the Cowboys would take Aiden O'Connell in the 3rd round, but Clayton Tune, 4th, 5th round, they would surely entertain that.
I still, and I know I brought up his name a couple times. I like Tyson Bagent from Shepherd, and I think he's a fun developmental quarterback who's got a really impressive arm. So I'd love Bagent on day 3 at some point as a value pick, as a lottery ticket. He's not ready to go. He's not O'Connell. He's not ready to step in and be a backup quarterback like right now, like I think O'Connell is. I like Jaron Hall. Daniel Jeremiah had Jaron Hall way up higher than I've seen.
He's got him way higher than all of us.
Which is his evaluation. I don't mind that. He's put in the work. It's just I was surprised.
No, absolutely. No. I mean, I'm totally with you. Okay, how about Dorian Thompson-Robinson from UCLA?
I am not a fan.
Okay.
I know a lot of people are. I have not been a big fan of this. I know he got a lot of where was he? Was he the NFLPA Bowl? Yeah, I think a lot of teams started to get excited about him at the NFLPA Bowl, but I mean I don't know. I think that he's got a lot of
his mental clock takes him to like 1, 2, run. I mean, some of his best plays are just take off and run. I mean, like he drops back and then he's reading and it's 1,000, 1,000 and he's gone. Yeah,
to me, what I saw with him was if it's not an easy read, he's running, he's making a mistake throw. And I think he's gotten better though every year. I think he has gotten better every year. He played in 48 damn games. I mean, he feels like he's been there 100 years. I think he backed up Troy Aikman at UCLA at one time. Boy, it's the year for old quarterbacks. We got Hendon Hooker and everybody else. Just before we wrap up here, Brian, I'm going to give you one more chance. We both the other night projected Michael Mayer, tight end from Notre Dame, as our pick.
Yeah.
Have you changed? Do you have a projection for pick 26 that is different than Michael Mayer?
I want to believe.
Is the Musgrave pick from DJ throwing you off?
No, it's not, because what name have we not heard at 26? I think realistic, both those tight ends could be gone. I don't know. The Musgrave pick, what bothers me is Daniel Jeremiah has him as his 38th best player on the
38.
board. Yeah. And he's picking him at 26.
Do you have his positional breakdown?
No, I don't. I have.
Do you know if he has Washington ahead of Musgrave?
Oh, hang on here. We could do this. We could sure do that. Hang on. Let me look here with Washington because I know
if he has Washington ahead of Musgrave.
Okay. He does.
He has Washington ahead of Musgrave?
He does. He's got.
And he has them picking Musgrave with Washington on the board.
Yeah, I got Musgrave. I got Washington. I've got him at 37. Dane has him at 30, and Daniel Jeremiah has him at 33.
He has him 5 spots ahead of Musgrave, and he still has the Cowboys taking Musgrave. Maybe he knows something, Brian.
Yeah, let me hang on here. Let me look at all his tight ends. Hold on one second here. Okay, let me see what he's got on. Okay, Mayer, I have at 18. Dane has it 19, and Daniel Jeremiah has him at 20. Okay, that's it. How about this one? I've got Dalton Kincaid at 22. Dane has him at 20. Daniel Jeremiah has him at 9.
Man,
he's got Dalton Kincaid in the top 10 on his board.
I mean, I have Kincaid at 14. I'm not that far off from him, but still, that's surprising. Yeah. So who's your pick at 26, Brian?
Why am I having visions of Drew Sanders in my head and stuff like that? You know,
that's not. I mean, I don't think that. Look, this is. I think this is a year where there's zero consensus. The closest we've got to a consensus is the name I'm still going to stick with. I'm not going to break from it now. There's been too much buzz about it the last 2 weeks. Michael Mayer, tight end from Notre Dame, is still going to be my projection. But Brian, I mean, other than that,
I would say if Mayer is there, sure. But I want to believe that there might be people in that room that would cheer, that would be okay if Mayer were to go ahead of them, and then that got Kincaid to them. I think they're more interested in Kincaid and Musgrave type tight end man than they're interested in Michael Mayer.
I am as well. So that'd be great. I'd be so for that. So what's your pick? You got to give me a pick. Don't ride the fence here, Brian.
I'm not going to ride the fence. I think that I'm trying to think of who is going to be there. That's what I'm trying to think.
Well, here's the thing. Do you think Mayer gets there? Yes or no?
I would say I don't think he does.
Okay, so he's off the board. Who's the pick at 26?
I think it's going to be Kincaid. I've said so many different things.
Okay.
I've said Bijan Robinson. I've said Sanders. I've said, I'll tell you what, the one I hope, I do hope that Van Ness goes. I do. Because I think if Van Ness is at 26, I think there'll be a strong consideration for him at 26. I do. And me personally, I think he's a good player, and I hope they're right about him. But, man, maybe he's a better player at 26 than he is at 10, But Kincaid, it's going to be one of the tight ends. It's going to be one of the tight ends.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Remember to tune in all weekend to DallasCowboys.com, 105 through the Fan, and you can find 105 stream on YouTube and the Twitch. But be sure to tune in, especially 6:31 p.m. on Thursday, and then hear Brian.
Time.
You know who I'm kind of thinking? Maybe, or are we talking enough about this guy? And then when you hear that, you go, "Oh, okay, that's who it is. That's who Brian's picking." That's what we'll know, Brian. Brian,
man,
I am Bobby Belt. Next time we talk to you guys, we will know how this draft went. And I'll just say, remember this, whether you like the pick or love the pick, hate the pick, whatever else, Cowboys have had a pretty strong track record of hitting these draft picks over the last decade. So just have a little faith. Let these guys get on the field. As you told reporters in Philadelphia, Brian, let's see these guys get on the field. Let's give these guys a shot. Okay,
let's give these guys a shot
before we kill them. So, for Brian Broaddus, I'm Bobby Belt. We will talk to you guys again later. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more content like this. If you want to see more of our videos, be sure to check out our playlist and let us know what you think in the comments below. Also, don't forget to follow us on social media to stay up to date on our latest updates. Links are in the description. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.